Good morning. Welcome to Rise and Shine. My name is Alissa the consultress, your hostess here for awesome, innovative conversations from the front lines of disruption in the age of the entrepreneur. We now know that nothing is going to be normal anymore, that everything is new. And I'm happy to bring these discussions to you that I have the privilege of having in my community that inform my life personally, professionally, and give me ways to think about things that aren't just like Googleable assets, Googleable resources. So I am proud to have here today with me my dear friend for over a decade, Mr. Anthony Chen. Welcome to Rise and Shine.
Well, good morning again, Alyssa. Thank you for having me on the show. And I've got this is my second mug or pot of coffee, really. If people can actually see this and realize, like, dude, you got a little caffeine in you. But thank you for having me on the show.
Right on. I have never known you to be anything less than all out, and so your coffee mug does not surprise me. I met you about what did we say 11 years ago,
Yeah.
when you were new to New York City and moving from Buffalo. You moved your entire practice, and we got the opportunity to work together professionally and as strategic allies to build a community of professionals to do networking the right way. So
Mhm.
I am really happy to have you here, and I want to hear all about what you've been up to in this new normal, this new age of disruption. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to in this world.
All right, well, let's see. How long do we got here about my since childbirth? No, I'm just kidding. So originally born and raised in Queens in New York City. So lived in the city, lived on Long Island, Buffalo for 9 years, and then came back to Long Island, New York City area, and now in Atlanta, Georgia. And then in terms of you mentioned the question of like change, I guess well that's more specifically in the financial industry or just like for me in general.
Oh yeah.
Yes, to all.
Yes,
Okay, all right.
yes,
We'll
both.
run. We'll run with that. We'll run. Okay, so we'll go with the first one. So the financial side would be people are definitely a lot more open, uh, having remote advisors because before then the idea of not having that one-on-one, I would say across the table or the physical location, working with advisor was just kind of abnormal per se, for lack of a better word. It's just harder to connect, but because since 2020, everyone working remotely, well, that's kind of the whole entire industry had to change in that mindset. And back then, the kind of the running joke, at least for the advisors been in the field for a while, is everything was still paperwork. I mean, we move at the pace of a dinosaur. And it was like, hey, well, people can't like meet together anymore. So this whole application and account opening process thing, yeah, that paper is gonna have to go. So I've already been what, like almost 10 years in, yeah, over 10 years in the field. And the running joke is, oh, this e-application will come, will come, will come. It's like, yeah, whatever. We'll believe it when we see it. What did it take for us to move to 21st century? A pandemic. So
Right on.
so that's a silver lining. That's a positive
Right
change
on.
from there.
And I love what you said about having now we get to feel our ability to create rapport and trust regardless of if we are tangibly physically in the same room together. I think that, realization that phone calls and video calls, while they have their purpose in place, we get to live our real life and do our business and what we're passionate about, creating connections in all ways. It doesn't necessarily all need to look one way anymore. So
Mhm.
our scope has broadened quite a bit, and I found the same thing for myself, that it's now, there's less commute time, there's more opportunity to connect virtually, but also now I find that connecting virtually, there's so much noise. There's so many places to go, so many meetings to attend, but you don't have the opportunity now to sit next to one another and have a side chat. You kind of have to do that in the Zoom chat or
Mhm.
in the sidebar. But as far as yourself personally, over the last 10 years, I have seen you fall in love, double down on your principles, emerge as one of the most trusted people in my advisory space. When I have troubles, when I have worries, when I have brain pretzels that I need figured out, you're one of those people that I call. So I'm happy to introduce you to my world here in a way that, people get to see us here in conversation, but they have access to the fact that you're one of my go to resources and have been for a really long time because I find you to be methodical. I find you to be honest, and predictable. Like I always know what I'm getting when I'm talking to you. I always feel like you're the same person. You show up the same way for me every time, whether it's been 5 months, a year, or more. So your consistency gives me those feels, that trust vibe, and so I really appreciate that. You know, as the globe turns here, 10 plus years, you're still the guy I know and trust, and I'm watching you do more great things. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing down there in Atlanta and some of the ways that you're engaging in community and business.
Hold on, totally. I mean, had you told me, Anthony, you're gonna go from an introvert to a networker to running other organizations, I would have said, yeah, okay, what are you on? Because I'll take double what you just drank or what have you. But no, here I really much engaged with the Greater Norfolk Chamber of Commerce, so shout out to them. In terms of many chambers and organizations that I've been involved in, they are very on top of things in terms of really building community. I guess I might be preaching to the choir either to yourself or the audience watching or listening here is kind of wanting to leave that whole your top-down model and having member-led initiatives uh, coming from organic growth and really pushing particular programs and directions of the chamber. So kind of kudos to both the volunteers, the staff, and of course the leadership at the chamber to really allow that growth at the chamber in that regard. So that's one organization, and the other would be XPX or Exit Planning Exchange. So I'm very much involved in the Atlanta chapter here. So like, what is XPX? It's really a whole room of advisors from all different industries and backgrounds really coming together for one sole purpose, and that is making a difference in the way business owners leave or sell the business, particularly when it comes to succession planning, whether it is, hey, I'm good, I hit my number, I want to sell out, or how do I best preserve the values that I've founded my business on from one generation to the next? And it doesn't always have to be a blood related family. It could be someone that they may have started with them from the ground up. They they were there from day one, and it's like, you know what, I wouldn't trust anyone else to care and tend to my organization better than you. So these are kind of the very quick top down, I guess 10,000 foot view of things I'm involved in here.
Yeah, and so I think it's really timely. The exit planning exchange that you were talking about,
Hmm.
so many businesses right now are in transition, just because of the ways of the world and also like the aging population of business owners. What are you seeing there? Are there any trends that we can become aware of or awarenesses from, your unique perspective around the business environment and when it comes to exit planning or buying a business?
Hmm. Well, you hit kind of the elephant in the room is the business owners are kind of aging, and that's just kind of everyone notices this, and a lot of them feel, well, I could probably go for another couple years. So the idea of thinking, planning that's like way into the future, whether it's retirement or selling the business. But for what XPX and many other organizations and professionals are looking 3, 5 years ahead, we're thinking, all right, well, if you're having any intention of succession planning, it needs to be done 3 or 5 years ahead of schedule. Not like today where, you know what, I'm just gonna put a for sale sign on my business and then everything will turn around in 6 months. It doesn't work like that. That's just basically panic selling in that regard. So really what we're focusing is getting that conversation started early. So that's kind of at least a change in the industry where we're being a lot more proactive rather than just kind of order taking from the client. And then in terms of kind of more so on the southeast side of things here, I'm trying to remember there was two times that had a conversation or exact presentation in this regard was a lot of population driving growth coming down here. A lot more opportunities, but of course, then the challenge would be, okay, how do we keep pace with this population growth? One, housing prices has definitely skyrocket down here in the southeast, although coming from New York City, everything's still relatively cheaper. And then of course labor. It's like, all right, all these businesses are pouring resources down here to grow. Then the next step is how do we train the next generation to have the appropriate skills to take on these positions? So those are the opportunities of growth and also things that we, at least here in Georgia or in the Southeast, need to be more cognizant about.
Yeah, absolutely. Because and as I'm listening to you talk about, hey, I'm thinking about it, but I'm not ready yet. So by the time you are ready to exit a business, it's too late to do the planning that's going to allow you to maximize your exit, perhaps get the best sale price, or have the smoothest transition to whoever is buying or taking over the business. In my family, my father was so confident that my mom could handle everything that she started ringing the bell years ago and saying, we should really talk about, straightening out some of the buy sell agreements, or the exit planning. Eventually we're not going to want to be bagel store owners and commercial and residential real estate owners, or maybe we do, I don't know, but we need to start having that conversation, she would say. And my dad pass the buck, not because of a lack of focus for him, but he was very happy living his life with his identity as a business owner and a real estate owner and investor. So by the time it was too late, he was on his deathbed. So they got some very important, like high level survival type stuff done in the year that he had to plan for his demise. Thank you, cancer, right? How often can we say that? But they had 1 year to set up the absolute necessary structure, but it took my mom another 2 to 3 years after that to sort through, untangle, maybe sell, maybe buy. And so she actually did the exit planning live as she was exiting. So, while I consider her a battle axe and highly intelligent, and she has a multitude of capacity, I watched her struggle with it. I watched it bleed her drive energy. I watched it be a thing that was like a thorn in her side for years and years. So out there, if you know anyone who's thinking about exiting, by the time they're ready to exit, it's too late. And the amount of suffering that comes along with exit, you're going to wish you planned sooner. So, Anthony, do you have any resources or recommendations for people who are either looking to buy or looking to exit, how they can start thinking about that and getting active right now?
Starts always with the end in mind. Ask the question of why. Like, why am I going into business? Or why am I looking to buy a business? And once one start a business, any good advisor, it's not just the financial world, but lawyers, accountants, anyone that works with the business owner, the question has always got to be, okay, now that we're here, what is the end game? What defines that end game? And I think also kind of going on the theme of changes in the industry, we're finally shifting from just looking at every business owner or business as just numbers on the spreadsheet. Now we're taking into account of the business owner's psyche of, okay, this is not like a midlife crisis. This is like a whole, as you mentioned, identity crisis. And the question to the business owner should be, okay, let's say we get that number and we sell the business. What is your next best chapter? Because sometimes that unknown next chapter holds them back from wanting to plan. And just like,
Mm.
well, I this is like my entire life, my entire ending. Who am I left after this? Then the question should be, okay, no, this should be the next chapter. You can create a new identity. But our profession are so enamored with numbers, and I'm just as guilty when I started. It's like we got to bring some humanity into these numbers and some meaning and purpose. And hey, there's a next door, and you can the sea is your oyster. You can define however you want. And until we kind of bridge that gap, uh, I guess I'm kind of going to a ephemeral purpose or passion, but giving purpose and meaning to numbers and having the business owner feel like they're not alone is the one thing I would definitely push for both the business owner in terms of understanding, interviewing their advisors in terms of resources, and finding the people that gets them.
Yeah. And I love what you said about needing to have that compassion and that humane connection, because for the amount of advisors that are out there to help business owners, there's no one size fits all. Although when it comes to financial services, legal services, tax services, we tend to think very sterilely about that. We tend to think it's just X's and O's.
Mhm.
Numbers and lines and data points. X's and O's for me, though, because I am a geek at heart that loves to put meaning into those numbers like you. And we have to consider that identity shift is the foundation upon which all change is built. So I like to talk about feeling the zing. So if you're looking for an advisor to help you through to the next step, if you don't feel that zing with the people you have relationships with now, it may not be a match for who you're becoming. Because at the end of the day, all transformation comes when you see something worth becoming that allows you to lift out of your comfort zone in order to achieve it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, what are we doing? I'll just stay in my business. I'll just stay here and be the person I've always been because I don't know who I'm going to become. I don't even really know who I want to become. So
Mhm.
having the right connection to help you define that clarity that will create the magnet that allows you to move forward is absolutely crucial. I mean, that's part of what I'm up to here in these broadcasts is like I'm sharing with the world people who I feel a connection with, that I do business with, and that I refer people to because I find it matches with my energy signature, my vibration, my alignment, my moral compass, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
And all change happens when you know who you're becoming. Like I just started rereading the book The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and he talks about, your mindset is always greater than the successes that follow, because that's the thing that allows you to become the person worthy of having that success arrive based on your strategy and your plan. So I highly recommend mindset work. I highly recommend looking at your numbers and your spreadsheets as having meaning and finding someone like Anthony who can bring it in and make it come to life for you. That is the name of the game when you're finding people to help through any transition, especially one as meaningful as exit planning. Now, I have a lot of folks in the real estate space who are exiting businesses or who are leveraging their businesses to create that plan of alternative assets in their second act or their next chapter where they're becoming the captain of this new ship. And so um again, that feeling of knowing who you're becoming is just as important as the tactics and the structure and the strategy. And I don't know, Anthony, if you've got any frameworks or ways to kind of think about the being and the doing when it comes to these strategies and tactics. But what advice could you give somebody who is thinking about making a transition that you can help with?
I think it just goes back to that original question. What does the end game look like? What is if financial resources was no longer a stressor or anxiety inducing, what would they rather be doing? And if they don't have the answers, like, all right, well, then it would be an exercise of finding out what their purpose is. Because rather than planning from a mindset of scarcity or running away from something, it's much easier for someone to self-motivate running towards something, towards a particular purpose or goal that they want, not because a spreadsheet or formula said, "Oh, you gotta do this," or because an advisor or a lawyer said, "No, this is the only way to do it." No, it's because they see purpose and meaning in doing that, and they're gonna be a lot more driven, and if anything, push us and advisors to move a little faster. Like, "Wait, why are you guys moving a little faster?" It's like, "Well, we can only move as fast as, I don't know, what the court is allow, or as fast as the the tax man, respond to us." But, yeah, that would definitely always be or should be the North Star, is that why and their purpose. Start with the end in mind, and then everything else can follow right after.
Yeah, and I love that you're saying this because it's sometimes is the hardest thing for us to ideate and envision when we don't feel that we have mastery in the place that we're going. We just have a desire. So identifying someone that has either been there before or has access to the people who can help you bring that vision to life is really important as you're thinking about it. But when you're stuck in your head or you're stuck by yourself,
Mhm.
it can run around in circles or create strategies that go nowhere, and then you have to start over. So, for folks like Anthony and for folks like me who help people determine what it is that you actually really want in your um, transformation of your life, in your transitions, in your business, it's very important to identify that connection and feel that level of trust that they have your best interests in mind and that they have mastery in the areas that will help you to get to where you want to go once you do define it. So I know that you are now in the greater Atlanta area and serving people in that space. Do you have clients that you can serve nationwide, or are there specific places where people live that would be better for you and your licensing or whatever if they wanted to reach out to work with you?
Yeah, I'm still got like my license out in New York. I have one out in well, several in Texas. So if anyone that's outside of those state jurisdictions, because of the reciprocal relationship of state laws, I can always get licensed there. Especially when we're talking about being working remote. Really, they just have to be in the U.S.
Oh, good. So New York, Texas, and Georgia are your main hubs. And
Mhm.
beyond that, if there's a zing, you will go to the ends of the earth to make sure you get them what they need, and you'll get what you
Yeah.
need to serve them.
So it just comes down to the personality profile. If they feel that I truly understand what they're trying to accomplish, great. And as you mentioned, we can't be the advisor for all people, and clients can't be the right client for all advisors. They have to find someone that truly gets them, and through that perspective and that lens, because at the end of the day, all of us have a particular color lens that we look through, and we might be biased one way or another. They've got to find the right advisor in their corner that can view the world in the same way they do. And
Yeah.
that way, when they create that plan, it's like, oh wow, I couldn't have made it better. It's almost like you know me. Well, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, dude, I love it. And this is why I get to hang out with you, because you make spreadsheets come alive. And because I found that, again, like I said before, the consistent way that you show up and the level of heart that you bring to the table when you're meeting with someone, it comes through the screen. Would everybody agree? High five your
Yeah.
screen right now if you if
Thank
you
you.
agree, because I can, even though we're miles and miles apart, I feel like we never lose a beat. So I thank you very much for coming here to kind of open some eyes and have some meaningful dialogue around some of the places and the spaces where you have mastery and connection. And if people want to reach out and connect with you, how can they do that?
But yeah, it's very simply through my LinkedIn, Anthony Chen, or you can reach me out to my via email, which is really just my full name, Anthony Chen at lfnllc.com. And that being said, thank you for having me on your show. And then now I'm thinking back on that other, I guess, a good tidbit as someone that's kind of finding those answers. Don't be afraid to ask out for help. Because if you're thinking of, oh man, I should have done more, but I'm X amount of years into my business. I should know this. I should have done that. Life is already hard enough on us. You don't need to beat yourself more. There's, if there's a question you don't have an answer for, there's probably someone that has a solution. Reach out.
Okay, that's great. So your email, again, your name, Anthony Chen at LFN, like Lighthouse Financial Network,
Mhm.
LLC.com. It has been a pleasure to have you here. And thank you so much for spending a little bit of time and sharing a slice of yourself with us here today. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Don't forget to click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss another episode. We go live here with broadcasts every Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So until then, friends, rise and shine, create your own new normal, and have conversations and courage to be willing to move out of that comfort zone into the place you belong, into the you you're becoming. Until next time, see you.
See ya.